Let me say something that most people are too uncomfortable to admit. The reason so many men keep losing good women has absolutely nothing to do with their bank account, their height, or how attractive they are. It has everything to do with how they make a woman feel, and more importantly, whether they make her remember them. Because here is what nobody is telling you: a woman's memory when it comes to men is not random. There are specific things a man does, or completely fails to do, that get burned into her mind in a way she cannot explain and cannot shake loose no matter how much time passes. Women are not wired the way most men assume. We do not sit around replaying how much you spent on dinner or how impressive your apartment looked. We replay moments. We replay the way a man made us feel seen when the rest of the world was looking straight through us. We replay the way he held his ground without being cold, the way he stayed when it would have been easier to leave, the way he made us feel like we were not too much. Those moments do not fade with time. They get sharper, and the man attached to those moments stays in her mind long after everything else has faded away. That is exactly what this video is about. I am going to walk you through 5 things that plant a man so deep in a woman's memory that she never fully lets him go. These are not tricks or manipulation tactics. These are honest truths about female psychology that most men were never taught and most women never say out loud. If you are single, this will completely change how you show up. If you are in a relationship, this will remind you what actually matters before it is too late. And if you have already lost someone and never understood why, by the end of this you will have your answer. Stay with me. 1. The man who made her feel safe in a world that never did. Most men think safety means protection in the physical sense, standing between her and danger, being physically strong, being present when things get scary. And yes, that matters. But that is not the kind of safety I am talking about. The safety that lives in a woman's memory forever is emotional safety. It is the kind of safety that comes from knowing that when she lets her guard down around you, you are not going to use it against her. That when she tells you something vulnerable, you are not going to laugh at it later or throw it in her face during an argument. That when she is being difficult or emotional or not her best self, you are not going to suddenly look at her differently. That kind of safety is rare. Women know it is rare. And when a man creates it, she never forgets him. Think about the world most women move through every single day. She is being evaluated constantly: how she looks, how she speaks, whether she is too emotional or not emotional enough, whether she is asking for too much or settling for too little. She carries that weight every single day. So when she finds a man who lets her put that weight down, even just for a moment, she feels something she did not even realize she had been starving for. She met him at a time in her life when she was going through something hard, not a crisis, just the kind of quiet difficulty that does not make for a dramatic story, but still wears a person down. She had been holding it together for everyone around her and pretending she was fine. One evening, something small triggered her, and she started to open up to him about something she had never said out loud to anyone. She fully expected him to either minimize it or pivot the conversation to something easier. He did not. He sat with it. He did not try to fix it, did not get uncomfortable, did not make her feel like a burden. He just let her be honest. She cried a little, and he did not panic. He did not make it weird. He just stayed. That was years ago. She still thinks about that night because in a world that constantly asked her to be strong, he was the one who made it safe to be human. And the flip side is just as true. The man who made her feel unsafe emotionally, who mocked her feelings, who went cold when she needed warmth, who punished her vulnerability with silence or cruelty, she remembers him too. Just differently. She remembers him as the lesson. The man who made her feel safe? She remembers him as the standard. If you want to be unforgettable to a woman, start there. Create a space where she does not have to pretend, where she can think out loud without being judged, where she can be imperfect and still feel accepted. That kind of man does not come around often, and a woman who experiences him carries him with her for the rest of her life. 2. Why a man who keeps his word lives in her head. Rent-free women talk about consistency all the time, and I know a lot of men hear that word and roll their eyes. They think it means showing up every single day with grand gestures and effort that never fades. That is not what it means. Consistency, at its most basic level, simply means you do what you say you are going to do. Say it and do it. Every single time. That is it. And I promise you, that alone will set you apart from almost every man she has ever dealt with. From a woman's perspective, broken promises are not small things. Every time a man says he will call and does not, says he will show up and does not, says he will handle something and lets it fall apart, she is taking note. Not because she is keeping score out of pettiness, but because her brain is doing what brains do. It is building a pattern. It is answering a question she did not even consciously ask, which is, can I trust this man? And every broken word is her brain quietly answering no. The man who keeps his word does not have to be perfect. He does not have to be the most exciting or the most romantic. But when he says something, she believes it. When he makes a plan, she does not spend the next 3 days wondering if it will actually happen. That kind of reliability creates a feeling in a woman that goes deeper than attraction. It creates peace. And peace is something most women are desperately hungry for in a relationship, but rarely say out loud. A woman who finds peace in a man does not forget him easily, because peace is harder to find than chemistry. So if you want to live in a woman's memory in the best possible way, start paying attention to your words. Do not say things you do not mean. Do not make promises you cannot keep just to make the moment feel good. Underpromise and overdeliver every time. Be the man whose yes actually means yes. Because she has dealt with enough men whose words meant nothing, and when she finally meets one whose words mean everything, she holds on to that. She compares every man after him to that standard. You want to be that standard. 3. The moment you chose her without her having to ask, there is something that happens inside a woman when a man chooses her, not because she begged, not because she gave him an ultimatum, not because she made it painfully obvious that she was pulling away, but simply because he wanted to, because he looked at her and decided she was worth choosing without any pressure attached to it. That feeling is one of the most powerful things a woman can experience in a relationship, and it is also one of the rarest. Most women have spent years in situations where they had to fight to be chosen, where they had to shrink themselves or perform or wait patiently while a man figured out whether they were enough. So when a man chooses her freely and clearly, without her having to engineer it, something shifts inside her that she cannot undo. What most men do not realize is that a woman can feel the difference between a man who is with her and a man who settled for her. She can feel it in the way he introduces her, in the way he talks about the future, in the way he looks at her in a room full of people. When a man is truly choosing her, she feels it in the small things, the way he makes room for her in his life, without being asked, the way he mentions her to his people naturally, the way he is not constantly leaving her to wonder where she stands. She does not need a speech. She needs the quiet, daily evidence that she is not a placeholder or a convenience. She needs to feel like a decision he made on purpose. The painful truth is that most women have accepted being almost chosen for so long that they have started to believe that is just how relationships work. They have normalized the confusion, the inconsistency, the back and forth, because it was the only version of interest they kept receiving. So when a man comes along and removes all of that confusion, when he is clear and steady and present without her having to pull it out of him, she does not take it for granted. She recognizes it immediately because it is so different from everything she has experienced before. That clarity becomes one of the most attractive things about him, not because it is romantic in a movie sense, but because it is safe in a real-life sense. If you are interested in a woman, choose her out loud. Not in a desperate or over-the-top way, but in a clear and grounded way. Let her know where she stands. Stop making her decode your behavior and wonder if she is reading things correctly. A woman who is certain of her place in your life does not look for reasons to leave. She invests. She relaxes into the relationship instead of constantly bracing for disappointment. And years down the line, even if things do not work out, she will remember you as the man who made her feel chosen, and that memory does not fade. For what happens inside her when you walk away with dignity? Most men think that how a relationship ends does not matter much. They think that once it is over, and whatever happened in the final chapter gets buried under everything that came before it. That is one of the biggest mistakes a man can make in how he thinks about women. The ending is not a footnote. For a woman, the ending is often the loudest chapter of the entire story. How a man handles the moment things fall apart tells her everything she needed to know about who he really was the entire time. And it stays with her far longer than the good moments ever do. When a man walks away from a woman with dignity, meaning he does not beg, he does not blow up her phone, he does not try to damage her reputation or punish her for the decision, she respects him in a way that quietly haunts her. That sounds strange, but it is true. A man who can absorb pain without becoming ugly in it, who can say this is not working and mean it without turning cold or cruel, who can let go without making her the villain of his story, that man becomes something in her mind that she cannot easily replace. The men who lose women's respect permanently are rarely the ones who simply moved on. They are the ones who got petty, who sent the angry texts at 2 in the morning, who told mutual friends things they had no business sharing, who tried to make her feel guilty for having a boundary. Every one of those moves chips away at everything good that existed between them, and she is left not with the memory of who he was at his best, but with the memory of who he became when he did not get his way. That is the version of him she warns her friends about. Walking away with dignity is not about pretending you are not hurting. It is not about being cold or emotionally unavailable or acting like nothing touched you. It is about choosing, even in pain, to behave like a man you would respect if you watched him from the outside. It is about letting the relationship end without burning down everything it was. Women do not forget the man who hurt and still chose grace. They carry that image of him somewhere private and honest, and more often than not, they regret losing him, not loudly, but in the quiet moments when they are being truthful with themselves. 5. How you handle her at her worst tells her everything. Every woman has moments where she is not her best self. She is overwhelmed, short-tempered, emotional, or just completely drained. She is not proud of those moments, but they happen. And in those moments, she is watching you more carefully than you realize. Not to test you on purpose, but because how you respond when she is difficult is the clearest window into who you actually are. She had a day where everything went wrong and she took some of it out on him. Nothing dramatic, just sharp words and a short fuse. She expected him to either match her energy or shut down completely. Instead, he stayed calm, gave her space without disappearing, and checked on her later without making her feel guilty about it. That moment told her more about his character than every good date they had ever been on combined. A man who can stay grounded when a woman is falling apart does not come around often. She knows that. And she is not asking you to absorb bad behavior without limit. She is simply paying attention to whether you meet her humanity with patience or with punishment. That is what she remembers. Not the man who was perfect when everything was easy. The man who stayed decent when things got hard. That man becomes her definition of a real partner, and she does not let that memory go quietly. 6. The man who listened like her words actually mattered. Most men hear a woman talking and spend that time waiting for their turn to speak. They are already forming a response before she has finished her sentence. She notices that. She notices when your eyes glaze over, when you give a one-word answer to something she spent real emotional energy sharing, when you remember the football score from last week, but forgot something important she told you 2 days ago. That gap between hearing and actually listening is something women feel immediately. Listening is not passive. It is one of the most active things a man can do in a relationship. It means putting down the phone, dropping the need to fix everything, and simply being present with what she is saying. It means asking a follow-up question that proves you are paying attention. It means bringing something back up later that she mentioned in passing because you were actually there when she said it. When a man listens to a woman like her words genuinely matter, she feels valued in a way that physical attraction alone can never produce. She stops performing and starts being real with him. She opens up in ways she has never opened up before because she finally feels like the person in front of her actually cares about what is going on inside her mind. That man becomes unforgettable not because he said all the right things, but because he made her feel worth listening to. In a world that constantly talks over women, The man who goes quiet and actually hears her stands out in a way she carries with her for a very long time. 7. Stop waiting to be that man. She is already keeping score here is the honest truth that most men need to hear. You are not being judged at the end of the relationship. You are being judged right now in the small daily moments you think do not matter. Every time you dismiss her, go cold, break a promise, or choose comfort over effort, she is filing that away. Not out of malice, but because a woman's instincts are always quietly evaluating whether you are someone she can build something real with or someone she needs to eventually walk away from. The problem is that most men only switch on when they feel her pulling away. Suddenly they are attentive, communicative, and present, but only because they sense they are about to lose something. She sees that pattern clearly. Showing up only when you feel threatened is not devotion. It is panic. And she knows the difference between a man who values her and a man who just does not want to lose. Stop waiting for a wake-up call to become the man this video has been describing. The safety, the consistency, the dignity, the listening, none of that requires perfection. It just requires intention. It requires you to decide every single day that the woman in your life, or the woman you want in your life, deserves a man who is genuinely trying. Women do not need you to be flawless. They need you to be real, to be present, and to show up with honesty even when it is uncomfortable. The men who do those things are the ones women never stop talking about. Not because they were perfect, but because they were rare. Do not just watch this and nod. Go and actually be that man. Here is the most controversial thing I will say today, and I mean every word of it. Most men are not losing women because of other men. They are losing women because of their own avoidance, their own inconsistency, and their own refusal to show up fully until it is too late. That is the truth nobody wants to say out loud, but every woman knows it. The 5 things covered in this video are not complicated. They do not require money, status, or a perfect past. They require awareness and a genuine decision to do better. Safety, consistency, choosing her clearly, walking away with dignity, handling her worst moments with grace, listening like she matters, and acting now instead of later. These are the things that brand a man into a woman's memory permanently, for all the right reasons. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever lost a woman and later realized it was one of these things that broke it? Or have you experienced a man who got all of this right and it changed how you see relationships? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one and I will be responding personally because these conversations matter to me. You watched this for a reason. Do not let it just be content. Let it be the moment something actually changed.